Our topic of choice is global quality of life. We chose this specifically because we wanted to see how certain statistics compare on a global scale instead of a national scale, like our previous projects on StatCam. First, let's explain what our variables are. Our linking variable is obviously on a global scale, countries. Our independent variable is quality of life. This index was developed in 1981 and has been tested in a variety of settings and is used to assess physical, physiological, and social functioning of countries. It measures the, quote, ideal overall quality of life in different countries, usually including factors like living conditions, economic stability, social well-being, and our dependent variables. It's usually measured on a scale from 0 to 200, like in our case, where higher scores indicate a better quality of life and vice versa. Then we have our two strata, our dependent variables. First, we have our healthcare index. This variable measures the quality and accessibility of healthcare services in different countries. It includes things like staff protection, number of staff, hospital facilities, proportion of people with access to this healthcare, common treatments, access to medication, etc. And our second strata is the safety index, which is a variable that measures the perceived safety in different countries to assess, monitor, and benchmark their safety leadership, safety culture performance through things like crime rate, emergency response time, violence levels, political stability, etc.
Now for our introduction. What is our topic? Global quality of life is a fascinating and multidimensional concept that seeks to capture the overall well-being of individuals across countries. Different countries imagine a world map that just shows borders and capitals, but instead paints a vivid picture of how people live, thrive, and face challenges in various concerns of the globe. That's what we intended to imagine with our found information. Now, why is this important? Developing deeper, there are two critical factors of the Quality of Life Index that we judge to be essential game changers in determining where a country fits on the scale. There is the Healthcare Index and the Safety Index. Researching the global quality of life is crucial to society because it provides valuable insights into the well-being and happiness of people worldwide. By understanding the factors that contribute to high or low quality of life, such as healthcare access, safety, and even economic stability, we can identify areas needing improvement and implement policies that enhance living conditions. This research helps policymakers, non-government organizations, and international bodies prioritize resource allocation, address inequalities, and promote sustainable development. Now, which careers would find this data valuable? This data is useful for lots of different jobs. Government officials and policy experts use it to make decisions and evaluate programs. Healthcare workers use it to plan public health strategies and figure out where to put resources. Economists and researchers look at it to understand bigger economic and social patterns. City planners use it to design safer, healthier cities, while business people and investors use it to understand risks and opportunities in different markets. Or any regular person could look at it, deciding where to move their family or plan their next family vacation. These indexes, while seemingly just numbers, dictate a lot about the world with information that is important to any person.
As we all know, the median represents the middle value and the mean is the average. The mean of the safety index is 59.4 and the mean for the healthcare index is 64.5. The safety index has a median of 59.1 and 65.6 for the healthcare index. In this case, the median provides a stronger measure of central tendency and most preferable to make more accurate predictions, since there are outliers that may have skewed the data. Comparing the two stratas, it shows that half of the countries have safety and healthcare indices below these values and half above. The calculations highlight that on average, randomly chosen countries have moderately a good safety and healthcare system, with the healthcare index showing relatively more consistency across countries.
This is our histogram for our healthcare index. The first important thing to point out is what we see on our x-axis. We see the scale starts at 15 up to 90, but usually healthcare indexes appear on a scale from 0 to 10. So how did we get these results? Well, the data for the index has been prorated and scaled on a scale of now 0 to 100 instead of 0 to 10. They all mean the same thing, but they've just been proportionally enlarged in order to compare them to the safety index. The only important thing to point out about this histogram is that we see a lot of our data in around the 55 to 75 value. This will be more important later when we go over other things. Here's our histogram on the safety index. This we see that the data, the central tendency looks a little bit different. We got about a 45 to 55 present value and a 65 to 75 present value. But again, it's important to point out this prorated scale. Keep in mind that this means enlarged. It doesn't mean that it's been changed in any way. For the safety index, it usually is on a scale of 0 to 1, meaning that it's all decimal and point form, but it has been again put on a scale from 0 to 100 in order to accurately compare it to the health index and compare both to the quality of life index.
Now, here is our visual for our box and whisker plot. We all know what they are, but important to point out that this shows our maximum values, first and third quartile, and most importantly, the median. Now we'll be moving on to outliers. So why are there outliers? As you can see in the safety index, there are two outliers that occur. We know that the values 18.8 and 24.6 are outliers in the safety index, as no other value appears nearest that until 33. With the amount of values that we have, the unlikeliness that a value doesn't occur for 9 whole numbers consecutively is highly unlikely. In the context of this topic, outliers in the safety index could represent countries that stand out from average safety standards of other countries. For example, a country with low safety index outlier might have particularly unsafe conditions due to high crime rates, political instability, or lack of basic safety measures. These outliers are important since they can be used to highlight countries that face serious safety challenges and may require specific interventions or support to improve safety conditions. Now, why are there no outliers in the healthcare index? There seem to be no outliers for plausible reasons, that the country will take in information have generally good systems in place, with none appearing outstanding better or outstandingly worse than the next.
The standard deviation provides a measure of the spread of data points around the mean. A higher standard deviation indicates a greater gap between the data points, while a lower standard deviation suggests that data points are closer to the mean. In this comparison, the safety index has a higher standard deviation of 13.84, indicating more differences in safety levels amongst countries, which makes sense as we see two outliers in this set of data. The healthcare index shows a lower standard deviation of 9.95, suggesting that countries are more clustered around the mean in terms of healthcare qualities. This shows that there is a greater variety in safety levels across countries, while healthcare qualities is more consistent amongst the nations.
Here we have our scatter plot of the relationship between all three of our indexes. On the Y value, we have the two strata index from 0 to 100, and on the X-axis, we have the quality of life index from 0 to 200. Important things to note is that the safety index is in blue circles and the healthcare index is in red stars, not to get the two mixed up. Just to review and make sure you understand what our hypothesis of correlation was before we get into the actual correlation, we believe at the start that countries with higher scores on healthcare index and safety indexes often have higher overall quality of life because good healthcare and safety are crucial for well-being and stability. Good healthcare ensures that people are healthy, productive, and mentally well, which boosts economic productivity and personal happiness. High safety levels provide a secure environment where individuals can live without fear, contributing to a social stability and economic growth. Effective healthcare and safety measures typically reflect strong governance and good infrastructure, leading to better public services, education, and social support. Consequently, countries that prioritize healthcare and safety tend to have quality of life scores, as what we predicted, going into these true values on the next slide.
Now for our correlation coefficient. Quality of life for safety index has a correlation coefficient of 0.582 and can be described as moderately positive. This means that the overall quality of life in a country improves, there is corresponding improvement in the safety index, but the correlation is not extremely strong. This suggests that improvement in quality of life are often associated with enhancements in safety. Quality of life versus healthcare index correlation is 0.625 and is also moderately positive. This indicates that the quality of life improves. There is also corresponding improvement in the healthcare index, but the relationship is not exceptionally strong, though stronger than the safety index correlation. This implies that as quality of life improves, so does the quality and availability of healthcare, leading to better overall health outcomes for the population.
As previously mentioned when talking about our graphs, the indexes themselves have been prorated to scale them properly. The validity of this scaling may or may not change the results of this data.
For bias, obviously among a possible many, we believe the largest one is a personal bias. This meaning that the personal quality of life varies from person to person, and in our case, country to country, based on experience and knowledge. By this I mean what people in one country consider a, quote, high quality of life might be different from what people in another country think, and this can affect the way that the scales are ranked. We hope that it's unbiased, but Again, that includes an assumption that we make. Richer countries often score higher because they have better infrastructure and public services, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are better. The quality of life appears a different way. Another example is, how healthcare looks in different countries and how it's provided. Countries with universal healthcare might score better, but that doesn't mean that individuals get better care. In terms of safety, it's how crimes are reported and the types of crimes included. In a poorer area, if crimes are more common, they may seem like they're less of a big deal and therefore impact how they're scored and score better than they should.
For limitations, continuing with this data, it's also hard to ensure that data is collected in the same way everywhere, and it's updated quickly enough to reflect recent changes in country situations. Reporting standards can vary, making it hard to compare countries with good reporting systems to those with less developed ones. Also, different healthcare systems and focus on infrastructure over health outcomes make different comparisons challenging. Countries with more thorough reporting might look less safe compared to those where crimes are underreported. Safety data can also become outdated quickly due to events like political crises.
Obviously, these ideas are all overlapping and intertwined, but for assumption specifically, we assume that the average represents the whole, but it may not, which also makes the indexes a little bit unvalid. For both examples, this means that assuming that healthcare resources are evenly distributed within a country can also lead to misleading results. Perhaps people that have more money get better healthcare, and people that have less don't, and that leads to a higher index where there isn't one for the entire country. And for safety, it can vary a lot within a country, like for example in Canada, province to province, but national indices do not show this variability specifically. While all data is important and you can have useful insights, it's important to understand their data validity and use that to accurately make your further decisions.
Now, in case we didn't bore you to death and you want to know more, these are our resources where you can find some more information on this topic. Thank you so much for listening.